Hello, welcome to Humanities. I cannot be there today, so I'm going to give you the information that I was going to give you in class. I'm going to give it to you on this video instead. So just because I'm not there in person doesn't mean that I'm not available by email. So if you've got a burning desire question, I will be back on Tuesday, but you are more than welcome to send me an email to kind of get some more guidance on what you're going to work today. So today, as soon as that you pulled up your calendar, you notice that we're not going to have a team session today. If you are remote learners, I will be available by email, just a heads up. So I'm going to go through with you what your work time is going to look like today for humanities. So we've got a lot of work to get done by the end of the week. So that's why there's so much time dedicated to you getting your work done. So today you're going to start working on your reading group presentation. You're going to see Canvas modules for ideas on what this should look like. I'm going to show you what those look like now here in a moment. For most of you, you're just going to be working on your PowerPoint presentations. So let me take you to those resources that I was going through. So if you remember before break, I had gone over exactly what you needed to do in order to have those reading group presentations, right? So I'm going to kind of go over some of those with you now. So once you open up modules, you're going to see here where it gives you novel projects for any novel. This was the resource that I went through with you guys, if you remember, way back when, right? Like right before fall break, so much has changed. So if you remember, these were a lot of different options that you could have and that you could pick and choose from. You could do like a movie poster, you could map it out, you could have your novel where you could make like a sequel to Stargirl. You would have making a CD, a soundtrack, creating a newspaper, time is ticking, creating a timeline. A Dear Diary, where you pretend that you're a character in the book and then you write out a diary for it, or novel artworks. So each of these, if you scroll down, gives you a lot more information. So if you're like, well, what exactly should the movie poster look like? It gives you, okay, here's what exactly that you should include. And then it also gives you a little rubric here to make sure that you are including all of these parts, right? I'm not going to go through all of these because there's so many, but this is all available to you. So what I really want to hone in on today is the part that where it says you must, whenever you're reading through these, so just because you're creating a movie poster, you also have to, if you read carefully, it says you have to write a book review of the novel. And that includes a short summary, but focuses on what you did or didn't like about the book. It tells you specifically what to include, what grabbed you, why is it well written. So this part of every single of the projects that you get to choose, like there is like a little bit of a written piece. That's what I feel like most of you guys are going to work on today. Is you're going to work on that, like reading through this and trying to figure out, okay, what exactly do you want your project to be? And then get started on the presentation. Okay. So it's like, be sure to support your statements with examples from the book. So, I mean, every single project on here has a little bit more information, and that's what you're going to put on your PowerPoint. So let's say that you're working on mapping it out. Then it says down here, what do you think are the 5 most important events in the novel? Write a paragraph explaining why you think it's important, including and then it goes into detail, right? So each of the projects are kind of structured like this. So that's going to be the part you're really going to have to start to really think out too as well, where you're like, okay, what impact did each event have of the novel, so on and so forth, right? So there's 21 pages of this. I'm not going to go through every single one. It really just depends on which project is really calling to you. And then you can scroll down, find that project, and then that way it can kind of give you a little bit more guidance on what I'm looking for there. Okay, so that's the first one that I want to talk to you about. Where you're going to be working on that project. Now, if you're like, well, what can some of this look like? I've also included these reading group project examples. Remember, I went through each of these with you too. And so all of these just kind of give you some examples of what some students in the past have done. So this student, she did novel art projects, and she decided that she wanted to create a costume of the Egypt game. And then this student had created a soundtrack. So this was like an example of his presentation, his PowerPoint. These students created an art project. Some students made theirs interactive. So on and so forth. I have all of these different examples that go through it. What I really wanted to highlight with you is that important part right here where it says, here's what symbols did I use? So even if you are going to create some sort of project, there's those specific questions that you need to make sure that you include. That's what you should put into your presentation, right? When I'm grading you, I'm going to be like, did they go through each and every one of those questions that I listed on that sheet of paper, on that document that you just saw? Okay. So if you're like, well, how is she going to be grading me? I've also included the rubric on here to kind of help you to go over what this is going to look like. So I'm going to be grading your written portion, your grammar errors. Did you include theme within it? Use appropriate language and presents information because you're going to be presenting these live. So these are some of the things that I'm going to be grading you on. Remember, we had just talked about theme, and so I really need to see theme from what you and your group decided. Remember, I had you guys meet in your reading groups, and you told me what you thought the theme was. You're going to see how you can incorporate that into your project, okay? So I know that this is a big thing to be thinking about, but today's really that day that you can work with your reading groups. Make sure that you guys are all kind of like, okay, well, what did we think the theme was? What did we discuss with Mrs. Frank? What did she talk about and approve of? If you remember, I had at least one person from each group write it down. If you can't think about it, fall break was a long time. Maybe you guys can kind of, just talk and discuss what that looks like. So this is not, and I repeat, not a group project. These are individual projects. You can, though, check in with members of your group to kind of help each other out to say like, hey, I'm thinking about this idea. What do you think? And you guys can kind of bounce ideas off of each other, and you're going to. So what I picture the time looking like is like you guys are going to be working together, and you're going to be discussing what that looks like. Part of that. And then the other part is going to be you actually going off and working, right? So you are not allowed to work with anybody else that's outside of your group because each of the groups is going over a different type of theme that we saw through Stargirl. So that's why I'm interested just to keep you within your groups. And we also have to make sure that we keep our contacts low as well. So that's going to be what this looks like. If you're one of our remote learners or you just happen to be logging in online today, that's going to be something I want to make sure that you still feel like you have that connection piece. So feel free to dial somebody up on Teams or when we get live tomorrow on Tuesday, then you're more than welcome to kind of bounce some ideas. So today, that's going to be what you're working on for reading. Now, if you are my Humanities AM class, you're going to watch a separate video on what to do for social studies. So I think I described everything that you're going to be working with this reading project, and I went through all the different resources. Again, you've seen all of these resources, right? I went through all of them with you before break. So again, you can find those here where it says guided reading materials, and it's given you all the examples that you can have. You have your rubric here, and you have different examples that you can look through. So today is going to be a work day. Now, I know all of you guys are like, okay, well, how long do I have to work on this? What is the due date? I'm thinking that our due date is going to be Friday. So that's going to be a big project. However, every single day this week, we're going to be working on it. So today, don't let today go by and not get started on anything. What I would do most likely, like I said, when I discussed it, work with your group, talk with your reading group and be like, hey, what do you guys think of this idea? Have a short brainstorm session. Then go off on your own to be working on your actual project. For many of you, like I said, if you didn't bring in your materials, it's going to look like you just simply kind of like working on your PowerPoint to make sure that you include all of those different questions that I have listed here in your project presentation. So I know I'm not there in person, but I am available on email. If I can't get to you right away, I will do my best to make sure I do, but I will also be back for the rest of the week as well. So don't feel like you can't reach out. So good luck. I cannot wait to see what you do with these projects.